Welcome back to the channel, my friends. It's a new day, which means new ImAllexx's allegations just dropped. On today's episode, Jess Carter, another one of Alex's former girlfriends, has come out with their own allegations and stories and experience, and of course screenshots of their time with Alex. So a few hours ago, Jess Carter would drop these two photos, one being a screenshot from the Notes app and one being a screenshot of a conversation with Alex that pretty much word for word matches up with some of the horrific things that he would end up saying to Alice. So we're going to take a look at the note that she typed up that says, "From November 2018 to February 2020, I was in an on and off relationship with Alex, as everyone else seems to experience the first few months up to a year, whereas you'd expect with a brand new relationship. I can't speak much now, as 4 years later I have suppressed those memories and don't tend to think back on that time. I had made a statement in 2020 for my own personal closure and didn't expect it to go anywhere but just exist. I really wanted to reach out to someone, but I knew I didn't have the evidence because I deleted our messages to try and get over the breakup. I've included my original statement alongside a Facebook message between Alex and my friend during an insomnia event where he thought I wasn't in our hotel room. He left to go see Slazo before the accusations, and I had woken up to banging at the door to said friend showing me this message and saying Alex was looking for me. I was in the bed next to him. He just hadn't bothered to look. When confronted, he laughed about it, and I told him to never say that about me again. While I'm thankful I'm now in a position where my current partner has helped me heal through the damage Alex caused, my heart breaks for Alice having gone through so much worse and still dealing with the consequences. She deserves nothing but peace and happiness here on out. Nothing she has done will justify his actions towards her." We also have this screenshot. You can see it's from Alex Elmsley on Facebook, director at Alex Elmsley Ltd. He says, "Yo, where's Jess? For fuck's sake, I'm very angry at bar. I'm going to kick her head in. Now I'm locked out. Might kill her. Might actually kill her." And then there is a 39-second call. Similar to the situation we saw with Alice, where he was saying that he would, do some horrific things like slam her head in a brick wall. These screenshots do not look fake. I'm not going to refute Jess here and think that these are fake, especially after all of the allegations and everything that we have seen so far. Now going back to 2020, we can take a look at Jess Carter's original allegations towards Alex, where she says trigger warning, mental emotional abuse and depression and suicide. Now the year's coming to an end, I want to get something off my mind and I have at least a little bit of closure. She would say specific names won't be mentioned, but most can be assumed anyways. Whoever is currently in a relationship where your partner is heavily one-sided, guilt trips you, or puts you down, please get out. I know it's hard to think of wanting to leave, but I can assure you it's for the best. The start of my last relationship was everything I had wanted at the time. I was already living my best life, so things were only improving. The guy was super lovely and sweet to me, always cared and went the extra mile, but something changed not too long into the relationship. It was like he was keeping things away from me, which is obvious you tell your partner. I would have been in that situation. There came a time his ex came back into the picture, and like anyone, I felt a horrible gut feeling. When they met up, she ended up going to his flat and went out clubbing with him and some mates, all of which I had to find out through social media. Nothing from him. I'd already made it apparent it made me uncomfortable, them two being together, but his response when I wasn't happy was, I didn't think it was a big deal, and I have to be friends with her for work. Anything I'd say, I was met with an excuse. No, sorry, I'll tell you next time, or anything. So I just had to push how I felt aside and watch them on calls every night and talk all the time. Shortly afterwards, he broke up with me as he was planning on moving elsewhere, and he said the last 6 months were the worst of his life and how nothing good has happened. I was devastated and spent countless nights crying myself to sleep because at the time I genuinely loved this guy and I'd do anything for him, and it hurt a lot that I couldn't make him happy. I made one tweet during this breakup that I saw a good-looking guy in the gym, and he flips out at me saying I'm a liar for telling him I'd wait for him and would only like him and he doesn't ever want to be with me again. I broke down at work crying on the phone to him, trying to apologize and say how genuine I was when I'd said I'd happily wait for him. All I did was make a tweet about someone being attractive. Eventually he agreed to let me come and see him, and we started back up again as he said he was sorry for getting angry because he just missed me. He never moved in the end, so I'm glad I had to experience these awful nights wondering why I wasn't good enough anymore for no reason. One night he went out and left his laptop with me. I looked through some messages and he was a lot closer with his ex than he let on. He would tell her his problems, but to me, he didn't want to drag me down or get me involved. He'd also messaged a girl complimenting her ass, but me tweeting someone was attractive was the end of the world. I never mentioned this to him because I knew it would just cause an argument. I could never win with him. As time went on, anything that bothered me I'd tell him, and I'd just be met with a load of messages that started with I'm too busy, I don't have time for this, I'm not happy, I've got other things to worry about, the list goes on. He would always get angry at me saying my feelings. Looking at him, he's not a scary person, but behind the scenes, he scared me when he was angry. At this point, my feelings pretty much felt invalid, and I knew I couldn't go to him about anything. I still did, though. Whenever he upset me, I'd tell him and was met with the same response. Countless times he'd reverse the situation and play the victim, to which I'd stop being upset and feel sympathy for him. I was always there for him with advice and help, but he was never there for me. One time he told me he was feeling really down, so I drove 3 hours in the middle of the night to see him, yet when I told him I was down, I got met with something like, I'm working. For my 22nd, I spent the majority of my birthday alone watching The Walking Dead as he was in bed all day, but I can't be upset at that because his excuse was being depressed. I picked out flowers as a present from him, and he bought me some Jaffa cakes, which I later got told they were meant for both of us. I'm not one to compare gifts as I love to give, but I took this guy to a 5-star hotel for his 21st, and he couldn't even organize something nice for us to do on mine. There's situations where he's been pure evil, telling me he hates my friends, during an argument about how I felt uncomfortable being sat next to a male Uber driver who was touching himself at times and kept staring at me and my friends, were simply saying they wouldn't let me sit in the front period. He sat in the back just so he could talk to his friend, and I just became invisible. He blamed me for not telling him sooner. However, if he had paid attention to me as a person, he would know I have social anxiety and find confrontation, especially that kind, really difficult to deal with. He told me he hates fat people, then went on to jokingly call me fat when he knew I wasn't happy with my weight. I feel lucky that my depression doesn't get in the way of making others happy. No matter how bad I get, I can always make sure others are okay. Now I know that not everyone has that same mindset. He struggled with his own mental health issues. He broke up with me on Valentine's Day this year after I sent him a text saying it doesn't feel like he appreciates me or loves me anymore, in which he blames me for breaking up with him, which I didn't. He gave me excuses on why he couldn't do this anymore. Again, I'm too busy, I'm working, etc. I even booked time off just to spend it with him, and he never bothered to arrange to see each other again. Again, too busy for me. But he told me he wasn't going to go out for drinks with a friend, however that translates to just going to Asda. So he had a go at me saying I don't allow him to just go shopping with his mate. What triggered the message was him saying he was going out for drinks after saying he has no time for me. The fact I had to see his own friends with their girlfriends and seeing them make time for one another hurt like hell. His excuse for that was they do that because they aren't as passionate about their job as he is, so they waste their time. He never came to see me because that took away too many days where he could have been working instead. This made me feel like I didn't deserve his time or was even worth his time. Going on from V-Day, I was absolutely upset it was over, but I was able to manage it pretty easily at first. I'd try and talk to him, but he'd rarely respond. It wasn't until COVID hit that my own mental health crumbled more and I had to watch people die every day in April. This is when I really needed him to be around. Not that he ever was anyways. It got to a point where I was sat in my car on the verge of suicide. When I needed to speak to someone, I called him, and in the end he turned his phone off and didn't answer because he couldn't be bothered to talk to me for days after I was having a breakdown every day and just wanted to talk to him. I still struggled to understand why he broke up with me, as the only thing he changed in his life was getting rid of me. He didn't get rid of anyone else. Apparently getting rid of me was supposed to make his life better. Yet his friends were the ones who got under his skin, and they're still around to this day. Eventually he blocked my number. I would see him on social media talking to everyone and anyone. He would then tweet out, "An extra for this one. He told me off for telling my friends how he made me feel, as they didn't need to know. He doesn't tell his mates, so why should I? Couldn't go to him, not allowed to speak to friends either." calling random girls he's never talked about before, and when I pointed out that he can talk to them but not me, he kicked off saying that's basically me trying to tell him he can't have friends. All I wanted to know was why I wasn't allowed the time of day, but this other new girl was. He'd be more than happy to talk to her about her mental state, but not mine. Anything I would bring up after the breakup, I was yet again met with I'm depressed, I'm busy, I can do what I want, I don't need this. For someone who would constantly remind me he had depression and used it against me, he never once took my mental state into consideration. I could have gone to a certain person about this situation, but he threatened me saying if I went to a said person, I'd have no chance of ever being with him again. Well, now I don't want to ever be with you anymore. I don't see why people can't know now. The only leverage he had has now gone. This guy made me feel completely worthless, self-conscious, and gave me such a lack of trust in people that it's taken me back how much my current partner is understanding and willing to help me overcome my depression. He's literally having to deal with the damage my ex caused. There's so much to it that I could go on for page after page, but these are the main points that stick out for me right now. No doubt if he catches wind of this, I'll get accused of lying, or he'll just shout at me like he used to. I told him he was mentally abusive, and he said don't go throwing that around. I'd like to have full closure on our relationship, but I know he will never admit to how selfish and cruel he was, so this is all I can do. I have a lot of friends who have seen texts and heard voice notes from him, and don't worry, they don't like you either and will back this. Wow. So where do we even start with this, okay? So first thing, these allegations look a lot like what we saw with Alice, what we saw with Annie. And it seems like this guy just has some sort of psychotic issues that he needs to take care of, go to an asylum, seek help, get mental help and focus on himself before he wants to try to destroy more people's lives, more women's lives, whoever he's into. It doesn't really bother me, but just leave people alone. Clearly, every person that he's ever interacted with or somehow been on a date with or been partners with in the last 4 years has been mentally drained, physically harmed, and for the most part, this is not looking good for Alex. Obviously, we know this is insane. We have video footage, we have photos, we have texts, we have screenshots, and more just keeps coming out to put this guy deeper and deeper into a hole. Like this situation with Jess, we have body shaming, we have a bunch of new issues, we have a bunch of new things, and it looks literally word for word like what happened with Alice, where he was reaching out to his past exes, but in Alice's case, he was looking at his past exes like photographs of them naked and things like that, which is kind of weird. But in this situation, you had Alex going to hang out with his exes, and then, God forbid, this woman goes and says a guy is handsome, things like that. Alex truly is a monster among men. And that's kind of something I like to joke about. Like, that's a little saying me and my friends have, a monster among men. But in this situation, we truly are seeing a demonic person inside of this little gremlin. And it's kind of crazy how ImAllexx's went from being a once respected commentary channel, kind of blew up, and then he ended up going on to accuse his own friends of some pretty heinous things. And like clockwork, the time comes, the bell tolls, Alex is losing everything. And I couldn't be more than happy after seeing all of the things that are coming out. Of course, it does suck that all these people for so long, like in Jess's case, 4 years feeling like if she would have spoken out, Alex would have come out and called her a liar and said everything that she's saying is made up. Alice said the exact same thing. She was like, I wanted to make sure that I put this 82-page document together before I came out and was accused of lying, or Alex tried to twist the story. And it's all coming together. And once again, another person has come out. Alex, it's a wrap, all right? Now, thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.